here I am out in California. And I practice helping people with the 3 Ps of LinkedIn: their presentation, their prospecting, and most importantly, profit. And that's what I do.
Good for you. I've been talking to you every time we get on the Zoom. We're on for 2 hours, just thick as thieves, and I've never heard the 3 Ps. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm the alliteration queen. I love to alliterate everything and say everything in 3. So I love that.
Yep, absolutely. Now, and I love LinkedIn.
How did you start with your LinkedIn Diva business? And take us through your history a little bit. How did you end up here?
Well, I actually started out, believe it or not, as a paralegal. And I did that for about 20 years. And that led me into actually my jump into entrepreneurship, because I started selling, which in the day was called prepaid legal, now known as Legal Shield. And when I was networking, because I know you, Cami, with Mingle to Millions, right? Networking was really my thing. And so I got asked to do a talk at my local chamber. And I said, oh, you want to hear about prepaid legal? They said, no, we want to know how you network. So I gave the talk, and then a couple of other people wanted the same talk. And I always got the same question, which was, when are you going to write a book and show us your system? So I wrote the book, The 2-Minute Networker, and for years went around teaching people, very similar to what you do. You know, the 2 things your mother taught you not to do, right? Talk to strangers and master the F word, follow up. So, and then when LinkedIn came out in 2009, I just jumped right on, because as a paralegal, the logic was very similar for me. I literally could navigate it and found that now the world was not as big as your next networking event, but it was the entire world. You were literally one connection away. And I started to really take it on. And today I've got over 20,000 connections, and just keep making magic happen with it, because you just never know who you're going to connect with and how you're going to help that person.
Well, thank God for people like you, because people in general have such a hard time marketing themselves. As you know, I have been doing online dating for the last 1.5 years, and the profiles are atrocious. And not just for online dating, but for Facebook, for LinkedIn. It is amazing how, when you have one thing that is so important to market, and you have such a hard time with that, it just blows my mind. And so I can certainly see why people need what you have. So what made you decide to say, okay, well, I've been teaching networking, but now I'm just going to be the LinkedIn diva? How did that happen?
I got into LinkedIn because I loved it so much. And the side story, because you talk about online dating, right? And you know my story. I was married for 28 years and I got divorced for 6. And I ended up, the great part of the story is I ended up remarrying my ex-husband 4 years ago. So I have the husband and the wasband, right? Didn't have to change my name and the kids are ours. But during those 6 years, I was on a lot of dating sites. And what I really figured out was that I had to figure out a way to make money, literally, right? And so I decided, since the speaking market at that time was pretty bad, and I had to go out, and I literally had to be bringing in the door $6,000 a month. I wasn't going to give up my nails or my hair, right? I had my priorities. So I got my life insurance license, and I jumped on LinkedIn, and I went to all the mortgage brokers. And I basically showed them some ways that they could use LinkedIn to leverage to reach out to more of the real estate agents. And now you've been a superstar real estate agent, so you know how LinkedIn works. And I helped them. And what happened was I realized I hated selling life insurance, and I jumped right back into LinkedIn. But here's the part of the story that's really cool. I literally could envision myself as a supermarket greeter. I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to spend all of my savings, all of my retirement. I've got to figure out a way to make $6,000 a month. And within 6 weeks, I was making $6,000, and it just kept going from there. So that's really been the road for me. And I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And it's literally just more of a strategy. So I look at somebody's profile and I can see, well, who's your ideal client? And how are you reaching them? And how are they perceiving you? I actually put a post up today. It's the funniest post. It's a guy that is literally with his head on the bottom of a chair. And the post basically says, you can't be doing it wrong if nobody knows what you're doing. And the post on LinkedIn said, how many people really know what you do? Does your LinkedIn profile show you?
Well, it does seem like there would just be such a plethora of business for you, because all you have to do is click on 99% of profiles and say, holy moly, they need help. And I always think if I was a hairdresser, I would get in so much trouble because I'd be walking up to people saying, you know, I can help you with that. And you can pretty much do the same thing. And people have said to me, I've actually had people send me their online dating profile and ask me to review it for them and give them input and insight. And I could literally make a business out of that too, but I'd have to deal with all the, you know, well, now that you're looking at my profile, why don't we go on a date? But, you know, with the online networking, I remember you and I met out at JVX, and the coach that I had from that, when I was talking about teaching people how to network, she said, what about online networking? Now, this was 4 or 5 years ago, and online was already clearly going very strong. But I don't know, I was kind of resistant to it. I was like, no, I teach people how to do it face to face. But it became very clear that it didn't matter if you were sending an email, if you're texting, if you're on the phone, if you're doing a Zoom, if you're virtually speaking, if you're on a stage, belly to belly, hand to hand, it's all the same, meaning people are people, they have the same desires, they have the same fears, they have the same insecurities, they have the same goals. And what I find is social media has made us the most antisocial human beings ever. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's so true. You know, most people are afraid to pick up the phone. I actually joke when I do presentations and they say, there's this new app. It's called the phone. You actually pick it up and call people, and they all laugh, but it's so true, right? Everybody texts, especially the millennials.
I do the same thing. I'll pick up my phone and I'll say, you know what? You can actually use this for what God intended. You can talk into it, you know, and I do make fun like that. But it's so true. As a matter of fact, I met a guy on LinkedIn a couple of months ago. So I've always got different strategies. How can I reach out to people? So I had seen a speaker somewhere talking about doing a survey. So I reached out to about a dozen people that would be a perfect client for me. And I sent them a message and I said, hey, you know what? I'm getting ready to do a lunch and learn coming up. I've got some questions that I'm looking to get asked. And would you be so kind as to spend 5 minutes with me? You're a perfect client for me, and you could help me to really bring a lot of value and serve, you know, your people at a higher level. So we get on the phone about 2 months ago, and we spoke. We had a really nice conversation, and of course, I know how to ask the right questions to lead them in the direction that I want, not to rape and pillage, but to actually get somewhere and actually be able to be of service. And this person, I called and called a few times. He called me back today, actually picked up the phone and called me, and he said, you know what? He said, I know how hard it is to get people on the phone. You know, I'm in real estate myself. He said, I just really want to acknowledge you and really thank you for your persistence in calling me, because I do need what you have.
That's awesome. And, you know, it's funny that you say that, Cami, because I teach something that I do, and I call it 10 before 10. And that is calling 10 connections before 10 a.m. And here's the exact script that I use. Hey, Cami, my name's Rhonda. We're connected on LinkedIn. I'm not selling anything. The reason I'm reaching out is I just wanted to get to know you better. I've got about 20,000 connections. Maybe there's somebody I can introduce you to. I'd like to learn more about your business. And even if I get your voicemail, people call back because I said I'm not selling anything. It's magic.
That's amazing, because to me it would seem like if you say you're not selling anything, I know that eventually there's got to be something to be sold, but you know, good for you that people are calling back. It just blows my mind. I don't know how people stay in business anymore, the way that they avoid the phone and the way that they can't follow up. And I'm 51 years old. I've been going to networking events for 30 years, and it's just as true last night as an event as it was 10 years ago. Everybody's all friendly and they're all exchanging all those cards, but boy, when it comes time to actually respond. And that's one of the reasons why when I talk to people, if it's an owner or a broker or of a company or an organization, I say, you see what I've done here? Do you see how you and I are on the phone right now? How would you like it if your 10, 50, or 100 salespeople and staff and team, what if they were doing what I was doing to get you on the phone right now? What would happen to your business then?
It's amazing. It would explode. And, you know, it's funny. You have a TV show, but how many of your clients have podcasts, right? How many people have podcasts these days? Well, one of the secrets that I learned, because I really believe that you need to get on the phone. If you were to call somebody and say, I'd like to invite you to be a guest on my podcast, maybe not that exciting, right? Change the word podcast to show. All of a sudden, they get really excited. It's like, I found you on LinkedIn. I think that you would be a perfect guest for my show. I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. And just like you had that conversation, that person most likely is going to call you back and want to know a little bit more about what you do.
That's a great point, and I want to reiterate it for people who are watching to really hear what you just said, because before I came on and was given the blessing and honor by Lyn-Dee Eldridge to be the guest host here, I actually started doing a Facebook Live series, and it was called Fabulous, Fierce, and on Fire Fridays with Friends featuring Rhonda, right? And so when she asked me to do the TV show, I ended up putting that down because doing both was just too much. But even back then, when I would find somebody on Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere, I would say, hey, I would love for you to be on my live series, because I didn't want to just say Facebook and it wasn't a podcast. It was my Facebook Live series. So I said, hey, would you like to be on my series? I do a series every week, And so it was a great way to reach out. So for everybody watching, you may not have a TV studio, you may not have a radio studio, you may not even have a podcast, but you've got a phone and you can do Facebook Live. And talk to me a little bit about LinkedIn Live. What do you know about that?
So LinkedIn Live is brand new. I don't even have it yet. I'm just starting to learn about it. But what I have learned is you have to apply for it.
I did.
And there's a fee. I think it's $250 a month. Is that right? That's what I read.
Well, I wasn't asked for a fee. A friend of mine was doing it live, and so I Googled what does it look like, and I got brought to a link that was an application. So on the application, it asked, please put your link here of any other live streams you do so they can see you. And then it said, how often do you plan to do a live stream here? Is it once a week, once a day, 2 times a day, etc.? So just simple questions like that. And I did get a response that they got the application, but that they were bombarded with them and they hadn't made a decision yet. But I thought if anybody would know what the deal is, they never asked for any money, but that might be coming down the pike.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. It's actually on my list to do. One of the cool things, though, talking about, video and LinkedIn, one of the real tools that most people don't take advantage of is you can send a message on your phone and actually send it as a voice message. And you only can do it on the mobile device, but it's very cool. And people are so impressed because it's so easy. So if somebody sends you a message, just hit the little microphone, send a message and say, hey, Cami, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. And, they get to hear your voice and they just get to play the message.
You were so right. It makes it so personal. About 5 years ago, somebody that I knew on Facebook sent me a voice message, the first one I ever got. And I was like, oh, like you sent me a message, like you really thought about me, and it was very personal. And the more personal we can make it, the better. So talk a little bit about who is a client that you have worked with. Tell us what kind of transformation, like where they were when you met them, what you did, and what it's like for them now.
So I'll give you one example of a client, my client, Doug. And Doug's a pretty successful ghostwriter. And a lot of people out there really want to write a book. But they don't know what to do after they've written the book. Now, they're not like you, where, they've done the bestseller and people know who you are. They're kind of lost. So what he does is he'll ghostwrite the book, he'll get them to bestseller status, and then he takes them through a funnel so that they actually do get to appear on podcasts and shows and speaking. So it's really from book to stage. Because for most people that write a book, you and I know this as speakers, that our visibility is what's going to generate bringing clients to us, right? And most importantly, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to Google you, and your LinkedIn profile is going to show up first. So with Doug, he was doing okay, but like most entrepreneurs, he was in the feast or famine. He was either working so hard that he wasn't prospecting, or he was prospecting and he didn't have any work. So I did the complete overhaul to his profile, and I used the keywords, which were done for you. And I really did the research. Literally in 40 days, less than 40 days, he made $40,000. And the next month he had a waiting list. And, he literally attributed it to the fact that he wasn't positioned correctly. And when I work with people on LinkedIn, they become part of my family. So I'm naturally going to talk about them. And that was one of many successes that I've had.
That is a great success story. I haven't heard that one before, so that's awesome. So who is a perfect client for you? Like, for those who are watching, what do you consider like, boy, this is somebody I can really do what I did for Doug?
So anybody that is a coach, a consultant, a business owner, anybody that basically knows who their client is, or even doesn't know who their client is and wants some help finding out, because that's a lot of where the magic comes in with me, and basically doesn't know how to present themselves on LinkedIn, and also doesn't know how to prospect, because LinkedIn is a platform for serving, not selling. And so the ideal client for me is, if you're a job hunter, I'll refer you to somebody else. I don't work with the job hunters. But if you are a consultant, a speaker, a coach, a real estate agent, or a mortgage or an insurance professional, it's almost like going to the plastic surgeon. I give your profile a facelift, but then I actually show you what to do with it. I actually just got a new client, which was amazing. He found me on LinkedIn, and he's a dentist who owns a franchise for other implant dentists. It's literally turnkey. And, the joke was, I'm going to make you smile, right? And he really is smiling when he looked at his profile. He couldn't believe the transformation, which is analogous to what happens when people walk in this office. They walk in and literally in a day, they have a brand new set of teeth. It's incredible. So it really doesn't matter what your business is. What really matters is your referral partner or your ideal client on LinkedIn, because 80% of B2B business is done on LinkedIn. And how are you showing up? Because most people are like going to a black tie event and they're dressed in their running clothes on LinkedIn. So I get them dressed for the party.
Well, yeah. and I know that there's only so much time in Rhonda's schedule. So are you doing some groups, some other people how to do LinkedIn? What is your group thing looking like?
So that's actually just starting out, and it's pretty awesome, because what I'm doing is I'm putting groups of 3 or 4 people together where we meet on a weekly basis. So not only are we masterminding, but we're also giving feedback, because oftentimes it's very hard to step into your client's shoes and say, what are you seeing on my profile? I know that it's client-centric, but they don't know. So it's a really good way to get feedback, and also to find out, what is it that somebody would be looking for? What do they want to see on there? And they're stepping into the shoes of that referral partner or that client. And what happens is, by nature, people just start referring, oh, I know somebody that needs you. So it's pretty magical, actually.
Nice. And are you doing some speaking engagements?
I am, actually. I've been really focused on that lately. And so tomorrow I'm actually speaking to a group of realtors. Next week I'm speaking at a chamber. And then I'm speaking for the San Diego Professional Coaches Association in September, which is awesome. So my calendar is getting pretty full with that. And I just love that, because I actually get to interact with the audience. I get to make it fun, but they walk out really learning. For one of the things, this is a great one. Most people don't realize that LinkedIn has certain settings on your profile. And one of their default settings is very similar to Amazon, okay? Or let's use your dating site. So if somebody were to look at your profile, they might, they might find other people that they would say, well, if you like Cami, you might like, and they're going to pick other beautiful blondes that are your age group, that are professional, right? And you go to Amazon, and Amazon would say, well, if you like this, you might like this, this, and this. Well, if you look on a LinkedIn profile, it says people also viewed. So if you're like most of us and you have, the shiny object syndrome, you're going to be on someone's profile, and then you're going to say, oh, wait, I can go look at this person's profile. You worked so hard to get them there, and you didn't turn off the setting. So now they're leaving and they're going to somebody else's. And that's one of the easiest things to do that most people don't realize, because LinkedIn has it set up so that if you don't change it, they're going to actually jump off and go look at everyone else.
Well, another thing that you had mentioned to me that made so much sense is, when you have the paid version of LinkedIn, you get the little gold LinkedIn box. And yep. My analogy to you when we talked about this was, if you're on a dating site and you're on one of those sites where there's membership and then there's the free people, if you're one of those free people who makes a post, I don't have a paid subscription. If you want to talk to me, you have to send me a message. it's like, ew, like, do you not have bus fare either? Like, what's that all about? So to actually have the paid LinkedIn version just helps to elevate you a little bit more. You take your business seriously. You're a true mover and shaker. That made a lot of sense to me.
Well, and just on that note alone, it's kind of the difference between, are you driving a Ford or are you driving a Lexus, right? And we all know you get that 6 seconds to make your first impression. But here's where the real magic is, Cami. If you have the paid version of LinkedIn, you can see who has looked at your profile. And maybe they just did a drive-by. Maybe they didn't connect. So you have the choice to actually follow them, which I call professional stalking, which is okay. Because if you're following somebody, it's a cool thing to do, and there's not a limit on the number of followers like there are with connections. Or you can say, "Hey, Cami, I noticed that you viewed my profile. Curious what you were curious what you found interesting, and how I might be able to be a resource for you. Love to connect. Looking forward to learning more about you and your business." So if I didn't know you looked and you're an ideal client for me, I would never have that. It's like walking up to the ATM machine, putting your card in, and walking away without your $20.
True that. Great point. And on Facebook, I have taught people also, like when people send a Facebook friend request, you can just accept, and go on about your day. Or when I'm really in the hunt, depending on what kind of phase, if I'm in the prospecting phase, I'll create something that I can copy and paste. And when I accept that person's friend request, I'll send over, hey, I typically resonate with visionaries and thought leaders and movers and shakers. What was it about my profile that attracted you? And the fact is, they may not have even looked at anything. They may have just clicked friend request, but now they're looking, because now they're wondering, well, I wonder what did I like about that profile? So it's actually got me clients from doing that before, because they do come back and they say, well, I really liked that you wear red all the time, or whatever, is something to talk about. We've got about 4 minutes left of the show, and I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about something that you're passionate about, because when we first met, you talked about a cause that is near and dear to your heart, and it sounds like something that is becoming more and more prevalent and that people should know about. Would you like to talk about your cause?
Absolutely. It is Crohn's and Colitis, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And, the thing is that it's kind of like, people don't talk about menopause, right? We get to that age. Well, the Crohn's and colitis is really a very debilitating disease. People literally can't leave their homes sometimes because they have to be close to a restroom. And, the drugs that are out there are so strong, and literally it's taken so long to get more and more of them. So my passion is really to help find more of a natural cause, a natural cure for this, something that will free more people so that their lives will not revolve around, and we see commercials for it all the time. They show you the sign for the restroom. I would love to be able, I have family members that, are been really touched by this. And I would love to find a way to be a cause in the movement, pardon the pun, okay, to find a cure for Crohn's and colitis.
Well, you and I talked about this before. We haven't talked about it in a few months, but it just reminds me what a awesome movement it would be for you to find places in your community and then branch out to the next community in the next state and the whole country. Find places that would be walk-in restrooms for people who need one. So you could actually create an app on your phone so that people with that issue that know that they need to find a friendly bathroom that will let them use the bathroom, they can actually plot out, okay, well, I'm going to be going there, and I know that this place and this place and this place will allow me to come in and use the restroom. What a great app that would be.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. And, it's really for the people that suffer from this, it really is something that is a handicap in a lot of ways. And having something like that, it's so brilliant, because it literally would free people up to go out more than they normally would if they knew where they could find those bathrooms.
Well, and from a strategic standpoint, the places that are the restrooms are those people with the Crohn's disease would actually be their perfect clientele. So back to people who sell CBD oil, or people who do massage, or people, chiropractors who say that their specific treatment will fix that. In other words, any of the businesses out there, or even, you said that some of your people are coaches. Well, what about all the coaches that deal with depression or deal with health and wellness, et cetera, and that's something that they focus on? There's literally hundreds of people that will be a part of your movement Not just to help those folks, but to be able to help them professionally.
Absolutely. And even restaurants that had, there's certain diets that are very friendly towards people with IBD. They literally could, put something that, people can contribute to find a cure, right? And have certain kinds of meals on their menu that are very supportive of IBD. Now we're all gluten-free, right? But imagine taking it to the next level.
Well, and also all of those restaurants, because a lot of the times if you need to use the restroom, you don't want to walk in a restaurant, you're embarrassed. What if they say no? What if you're in an emergency situation? So to actually have a restaurant that says, hey, we raise our hand, you can use our restroom, and we've got this menu for you. It's freaking brilliant, my friend. We need to talk about that again.
Absolutely.
Every time we get on video, you're brilliant, I'm brilliant. We got all kinds of great things to talk about. So we got about 30 seconds left. What's the last thing you want to say?
Connect with me on LinkedIn for sure. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and literally get off your quote unquote ask, and make your ask bigger than your butt when it comes to LinkedIn.
I love that one too. You're full of good ones. Well, Rhonda, it's been an honor to have you. You and I could talk for hours as we always do. It's been a pleasure to have you on the Happiness Jungle. I know you're a good friend of Lyn-Dee Eldridge as well. So we are just honored and privileged to have the LinkedIn Diva. And I highly recommend that anyone reach out and get a consultation with Rhonda, whether it's free or whether it costs you a little something. It'll be the best investment you've made. So thank you for being on the Happiness Jungle TV show. Bye-bye, everybody.